Hello and welcome to this episode of the Moment podcast. Today I'm here with Lynn from Mossdala and we're going to talk about sacred groves. And so first of all, maybe I want to start off regarding the topic that we're going to talk about it from a very practical lens and then also a spiritual lens, and maybe starting with that practical lens. And Lynn here from Mossdala also has her own sanctuary garden, and we're gonna touch upon both that and some of those sacred tree traditions from different cultures, including like Finland, where she's located, and the sacred groves themselves in different cultures. And I don't know if you wanna take it away with anything regarding the topic. Like what? What is a sacred grove? What is a sanctuary?
Well, if we want to think of it in modern terms, like the closest thing would be probably like a nature conserve or nature conservation, different
Yeah.
different things like that. And in the traditions, it was like about keeping some areas like wild and that you didn't even hunt there unless it was like a very exception, and to keep like some areas such that people wouldn't mess with it. They wouldn't like intervene and let the wildlife have that area.
Yeah.
And it was seen like as necessary. And I think that's still important to bring that to mind and to heart in our day.
Yeah, no, I definitely do think so. Like it brings to mind with me, like for instance, the Arkteia rituals that I've looked into for some of the videos that I've done. For both the course and that I have on the channel. And there's much more like with rituals and such, connected to it too. But we're not gonna go into that in this video. But definitely this like environmental awareness that they had was very important to them. And they, with that, I feel also very much just understood what it meant to have this connection with nature and to have this balance, because literally their life depended upon it. Like because a lot of these I guess like this internal, and I guess like later externally imposed code, or like that would be taught to them since they were kids, is also part of like this cultivating that like balanced relationship, and to very much drive the point home. We better take care of the environment. We better like make sure that like you said, there's these areas here where wildlife can do its thing, where nature can do its thing. Because if we don't do that, then and we overhunt or we overfish or like take too much from nature, and we don't give back that repair in that sense, we end up actually harming ourselves with it, because we're not separate from nature in that sense. And then and they understood that, because it came out of this hunter-gatherer tradition that's way older, like going back into the Ice Age, and very much the Neolithic, so the Stone Age itself. And they relied on nature, man. They had to, and they really needed to know like what to do. But over time, we've just become more disconnected from from nature and from this kind of seeing these things in that light. but like you said, it's important to reconnect with it.
Yeah, very much so. And it's like, it really is about a relationship with nature. And they saw it through this lens of nature spirits or deities that represented the forest or such.
Yeah,
So they had like a respect for these figures and these areas. They had that understanding like that they wouldn't be able to live on without like a mutual respect and a continuation of those systems and those
yeah,
animals being healthy and having place to reproduce and do that in peace. And yeah, it is very important.
yeah. Even though like there would be also the predators going around and all that stuff, but like but yeah, it's really about like letting nature do its own thing, not to intervene too
Mm,
much regarding those like nature
mm,
reserves. But then a part of it also is these sacred groves that they had, where they would be doing like their rituals, their spiritual practice to connect to nature, to connect to these spirit um, animals or spirit beings connected to nature as well, where they would have like a temple or some shrine or a building in this natural setting where they would be connecting with nature and also connecting to a lot of the times these um, different tree spirits as well, and in these different sacred trees,
mm,
and that's
true.
also part of
Wanted
it.
to say about like
Yeah,
the predators in a way, because it's like important also to have the predators around, because then they will make sure that it's really the, even if it's like a bit cruel or it can seem so, but it's like then the animals that will survive are the strong ones. So yeah, and they had also found out like that if they remove the wolves, then the rivers become very different, and if they have the wolves there, it works much better for the whole system.
yeah,
So we can't just delete all the predators, and in a way we must kind of be aware of that, in even in ourselves there's this side, this dangerous predator kind of side, and to be aware of that and like and use it to protect what's good.
mm. Yeah, because like, indeed from a Jungian lens, it also connects to the shadow, and it connects to more like the primal wild man, wild woman kind of side as well, very much. And I
Mm.
think if you look
And
at
to
like a
life force at the same time,
yeah,
it's like it's the same life force that we can use for harming things, that is to with that we can use for protecting them.
yeah, yeah, and it all boils down on like how we use it, and then going into when we go into the rituals more, there's like way more connected to that, but that's for another episode uh to talk about more. But
Sure.
yeah, but I do want to go a little bit deeper into also the connection to the sacred trees, because it's also very important, like with the Celts, for instance, but also with like the
Hmm.
Greeks. They had that with the Dryads
Hey,
and Artemis.
can we go into that a bit later, because we said we would talk about the practical stuff for a bit before? Can we do that
Uh,
first?
yeah, we can do that first. Yeah, I just
Just
wanted
for a
to
bit.
yeah, I just wanted to just bring up this about the trees, and just say like that they're very 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 important to all these different diverse trees. That's kind
Oh
of just
yes,
what I wanted to bring up.
definitely.
regarding
Yeah.
that. I didn't want to go too deep into it, but just bring up that there's these diverse trees too, that are important. And with that,
Oh yeah.
it ties also into the ecosystem itself, and with it, like the diversity of it. And
Oh
so
yeah.
why I wanted to bring it up already now a bit, because I kind of feel it's an important point to point out too regarding sacred groves and what a sacred grove is. It's not just really just a collection of just some singular type of mono tree. It's very much also a connection, to these trees, but also different types of trees that would be present in these places. It wouldn't just not be like, sure, certain groves would have like a particular tree that's the central tree or something that's important to it, like a willow or an oak or a birch. But then there would be all kinds of different trees there present as well. And
Oh
I
yeah.
wanted to really like highlight like how that diversity of these trees and also these other plant species that they had in these groves, that they couldn't touch, couldn't do anything with, is also very important, to understand that. And I think, like leading that into the more practical side, I think that's also something we can, like take into that more, because I feel like that's kind of relates to the stuff that you might like touch upon with the more practical side too. This biodiversity within the grove, or even the forest itself.
And if you think of it like practically, having different kinds of trees, it creates different kind of um, different trees. Like they accumulate different minerals, or they create different kind of habitat for different birds or
Yeah,
animals, and so there's real like um, sensical reasons why. Also, it's not just like because we like diversity or whatever. It's because it makes sense as well. So
yeah,
yeah, I think that's like important part of it.
yeah. I
Yeah.
feel so too regarding that. It's not just about the plants in that sense, but also it's about all the different insects, all the different other species that can then find a home in those places as well.
Yeah, trees are very much like um such like especially leafy trees, because they create, then the leaves fall in the fall, in the autumn, and then they are a very much like a habitat and a protection for the insects during the winter. They hibernate in the leaves, so that's
Yeah,
also one thing, like that it creates in form of habitat for the insects, not just like in the summer when we can see them, but also like
yeah,
in the winter. It
yeah. But like not just that, but also that what it brings to mind is also something that you've said another time, I think, in maybe another video or just in private one time, where it talked about how like how the leaves also bring up these different, I guess, like, was it minerals? I think it was, and different
mm,
things from the soil that then become more available to different types of plants, and
yes.
to create this like cycle as well, because there's different cycles
Mm.
connected to it.
Yeah, and some trees are even nitrogen fixers, so they actually help to make the soil more fertile when the leaves break down, and make that available for the other plants that are around. So that's very useful as well.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
So it's
guess
it's interesting to learn about different trees, and especially like
yeah,
about the local wild trees, and to have respect for that, and not always imposing your will on what to grow where, to see like what wants to grow there. Like
Mm-hmm.
like you don't have to control everything. You can let the natural succession, the leaves spread their seeds with the wind and see what wants to grow there
Yeah.
as well. You don't have to be deciding everything, imposing your will on everything. You can work together and like find a middle ground. Like you can plant some things that you want to grow, but then also have like the local wildness with you. And that's like then the approach I have like in the sanctuary forest garden is like a bit of a mixture. It's like I've planted a few trees that I wanted in there, but then there's also a lot of trees that naturally have just spread there and grow there. So it's
Yeah.
like my philosophy, anyways. And that's very easy to do, especially if you have like around close by some pieces of ecosystem that spread the seeds in the wind, and
Yeah.
that helps you to establish something that like this. But then there's like also, you know, if you think of sacred groves, like in the modern day, I would think like it would be very important to keep the old forests, the old growth forests, set them apart and keep them safe from development because there are not many of them left and we really want to keep them, you know, because they're really safe havens for many species and we've lost enough species, you know.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's like something very important.
Yeah, but I kind of feel with that though also just that it's not just about keeping these old groves, but maybe also in a sense kind of like extending that like that these kind of like I guess sanctuary spaces or like these reserves kind of in a grander scale as well. But I guess it also really boils down to and that's really why I wanted to talk about this topic too is the kind of mindset that we bring to all of this, to the old groves, but also to the sanctuary space, or to the sacred grove, or just these reserves as well. Like, with what mindset do we like go into that, and how do we see it? Because it's
Mm.
very easy to yeah, I don't know, I guess like Nick, this one shaman dude, would talk about like dead matter thinking, like things are dead and it doesn't matter. That's like how he would speak about it. But I guess it's really about finding, like, that's why the ancient perspective, I think, for the practical side is also important, is to have that shift, so you can start to see all of this as like living beings, deserving of respect, and that you just don't, indeed go in there. Like, sure, you can have areas where you can do your thing, you can still farm in certain areas, and you can still do your things, but then there needs to be that balance too, regarding, those areas where you don't do these things, because, that's equally important to do that, because it has like also practical implications, not just on things like, I guess, in a local scale, but even on like a grander scale, because all of these forests that they had in the past would also help with the water cycle. That would help with so many different cycles. Really, if you think about it, like the nitrogen, and like, and when it comes to binding carbon over time as well,
Oh
especially
yeah.
like, think about like these old groves, like these big massive trees that they used to
Mm.
have. It's like, that's a lot of carbon, man, that they bind, and
Yeah.
also water. Like, fuck, that's a lot.
Mm. Indeed. like living carbon storage. And then
Yeah.
like also this reminds me of like the also like about necromass. It's like
Mm-hmm.
also the dead biomass is a metric of ecosystem health. So there needs to be the dead trees there and the leaves and everything to for it to be a functioning ecosystem. And I've
Yeah.
seen a lot of that, like that everything is taken away, like even the branches and everything is like in these some of these clear cuts, it's like very sad. Like, well, they're just stripping the soil and I just can't understand. Like,
Mm.
it makes me very sad. And I guess I can understand like that people some people make a living of selling trees, but it's like at what cost? If it's like too widespread, then I don't see that being a good thing.
Mm. Yeah, like it really like for me brings to mind from the Netherlands some of those areas that they used to from like since the Middle Ages do that to that turned
Mm.
into like these desert areas because it was just so stripped of well, I don't know, like the soil just became very like sand like and like it just didn't stick together anymore because well, of what happened there. But it's just like I guess really just again like it boils down to mindset. Like how do you see these things? How do you interact with nature? Um, how do you think about it? How do you relate to it? You know, and that again like yeah boils down to worldview and relationship and like how you
Yeah,
relate to that. And I guess
yeah.
uh,
For me, like it's very important with the respect uh, for the forests and the trees and everything that lives there, and
yeah
even like you know what is like yeah the necromass, the decomposing stuff. It's like it creates also habitat and it releases nutrients slowly and it releases carbon slowly, which then the other plants can take up while it rises. And it's like very much like one like
mm-hmm.
big symphony that we can't really maybe understand so well because our brains are limited. But yeah, maybe we can learn to like join the symphony instead of like imposing um our music only to be played or like our will to be part of that beauty
Mm.
that is nature. Because I don't think like we have to like um isolate ourselves from it. I think it would be good for all of us like to have also those areas where we can come together with nature and maybe with each other at the same time, like to have sanctuary forest gardens or something where we could gather and connect with each other, but also with the environment and our surroundings.
Yeah.
And I think like the ancients did that a lot more, and that's where we are all coming from. Like we
Mm.
go far enough back. We used to be a lot more connected with nature.
Oh yeah, no, it just brings to mind for me like the just one thing about the Celts that I want to bring up. Like they did like they settled their disputes. They in the groves. They did a lot of things in the groves. Like a lot of their important rituals, a lot of their important events would all happen there. They would consult the certain oracle trees, or they would look at like yeah nature to do divination or to really like yeah see um, the signs, kind of like, in nature, like, well, what is nature doing? How is nature doing? And you can see that too in like different indigenous cultures too, like, with for instance, like the more animistic or shamanistic cultures too, like how they really look at nature and have this relationship with it, and they look like, well, this is how the lake is doing, this is how the forest is doing, and we're noticing these things. So, oh, maybe we need to here and here give back some repair, or here and here we need to change our behavior, and not upset, like these particular spirits of nature, and to find like a proper balance. And it's also very much, in these cultures about keeping that up. It's not about like just a one-time thing. It's very much, yeah, cultivating a relationship
Mm.
with nature, and to pay attention to the science, and and that again also comes into very practical things too, when it comes to when it comes to, like, for instance, with you with the sanctuary garden, I would think too, like, looking at the very practical science of things, of like how it's evolving, how it is reacting, and like what is occurring within, your sanctuary garden.
Yeah, it's very much about like observation, learning by just noticing different plants or insects or animals. Like a lot of insects are beneficial, by the way. If someone didn't know, they're not all just harmful. So really want to have habitat for those beneficial insects so that they can then hunt down the
Yeah.
not so friendly ones who eat your crops. And that's why it's good to have these kinds of areas where these beneficial insects can thrive so that they can then help us protect our crops as well. So that's one side to it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, because they need that particular uh, insect that they prey upon also, to be existent, to obviously survive, because there's a relationship between the those insects and the prey that they have. But also, different plants that they have where they raise their young on, like, so, different herbs, or different, like, what we would some people would call weeds, that grow and attract these different insects, where they can lay their eggs, and like hatch, and for instance, with like ladybugs, for instance, or other such animals. And then over time they can multiply, and then it can really help to, yeah, bring down those insects that a lot of people consider to be pests, in a way that doesn't require, like, to use any chemicals or any of such things. So yeah, there's many natural ways how to resolve it,
Mm,
and to find that balance, which kind of
mm.
reminds me also about like this one dude who used like nettle juice regarding his farm, and he also let like a lot of the weeds grow, and that really like helped him out to create more of like a habitat for these beneficial insects, and to next to, the nettle juice that he was using, to really help with protecting the plants in a more natural way, and not use all of these chemicals and all these pesticides and all that other stuff that sometimes gets sprayed. And
Yes, yes,
yeah.
because it's also very damaging to the pollinators as well, and they're very threatened at the moment, from what I've heard. So yeah, we really want also habitat and for them, like all kinds of nectar plants than to have that are also some of them weeds. I would let them grow because those bees need it. They really need it, and
Yeah.
also like all those beneficial insects to have them so that we don't need to spray, so that we can also protect the bees from all those chemicals. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all hangs together. And like regarding diversity, like what you can do is like observe your local environment and like see like what native trees or plants are a bit more rare where you are, and then try to cultivate them. Try to gather some seed and start some seeds, like start a little nursery of plants and see what you can grow locally. And that's how it starts, and then you can start to spread it and help that diversity form.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I just also want to say regarding that with with the pollinators too, like they are also very important for the farmers too, and they're very important for in that sense us, and that's just one of the many examples really that one can like dig into deeper regarding that like relationship between nature and us humans, and really also showing like how interconnected we really are. But it's sometimes a bit like easy to forget that, uh, and maybe it's because these ancient people were closer to nature and they were more connected to it, spending more time in it as well. So I guess
Mm.
they just
Even
understood it
though
more.
like uh, probably they weren't perfect either, but
Yeah,
like I guess they learned from their mistakes and were like,
yeah,
"Hey, I can't keep doing this because we're noticing these changes and it doesn't seem good." So I think like it was based on observation with them too, like that we can't certain things leads to imbalance, and
yeah,
we don't want too much destruction to one way or another. We want to try to find like some sort of continuation of life.
yeah,
And diversity helps in that because it's more resilient if we have different kinds of trees. Because if we have only one kind, they are very susceptible to some
yeah,
specific nuisance that can come and destroy it. Yeah, like with the bark beetles, with the spruce, what
mm,
is happening a lot these days.
yeah,
So that wouldn't happen as much if we had more diverse forests. So that's one thing too. That
yeah.
why diversity is important.
Yeah, it's kind of also because it's not just so much of a buffet for the bark bee. I mean, if you kind of think about it, it's like an all-you-can-eat buffet in some parts, and it's kind
Mm.
of just like yeah, and it becomes less easy to spread if there's like yeah more diversity, and then there's also different insects, and there's more competition, and it makes it more difficult for certain species to yeah dominate and to spread that far. But then also what I was thinking was just that what it also does, and what I remember you talking about before one time was just that you in your sanctuary garden were seeing like how there was like different animals suddenly started to appear, like first with insects and then birds and then and all kinds of different species that you didn't see before, and also plants.
Yes, and mushrooms too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like after a few years, could notice like more butterflies and there was like these wild flowers and different plants coming too, and then I guess the birds liked some of those seeds that the flowers made, and then they came to eat them, and been very interesting to follow that, and also like different edible mushrooms even starting to pop up, where like the grass is not cut anymore, and at least not that often. And then also like in the more the foresty area, there was also this year came like a new kind of mushroom that I haven't seen in this in there before. So it is very cool, like to notice like when you respect the area and you guess interact with it in a bit different way, then it starts to give you these gifts. It's like and this beauty, and becomes like a habitat to so many beings. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. I think at some point there were also mice, but then foxes came.
Yeah. Yeah, there was some mice, but yeah, then also foxes. So, and there's like a neighbor with a cat, so I guess that also helps.
Yeah.
So it didn't become like a huge problem, because it's like when the so-called pests come, soon after comes the predator. Because it's like, yeah, it attracts it. It's like, oh, here's some food for me.
Yeah,
So-
but that's the whole thing. It's like there's a lot of the times there's this fear of like once they come, oh no, it's all going out of hand, and then it's going to be chaos, and I don't know, it's that, I guess, fear, but then yeah, the predator comes soon after if you let it.
yeah.
And if you have keep these predators around, like thinking like wolves or bears or other bigger predators as well.
They need a bit more habitat, but yeah.
they do. They need more habitat than a fox would, for instance. But like yeah, but it's still like on both a local but also like a higher, like like more, I guess, regional scale. That's all important, and it's also all interconnected. So it's like and in that sense, like kind of what you can understand also, I feel, from these different areas that they would have, for instance, in Greece, but also with the Celts, these different traditions. Also, in a very practical manner, is that it wasn't just about like, well, everything needs to be, I don't know, perfect, like biodiversity and this and that and something. It really was also just about like, these are these areas, these regional areas or these local areas where this biodiversity was present, where nature was left to be. And then these are areas where we are like interacting with nature, but we're not like imposing too much. And then here are these areas where we're doing farming and we're having villages and we're doing our thing more fully. And I kind of feel like also bringing that up, because it's sometimes it can get very much lost in the whole debates about these things, and it's kind of like, I don't know, I guess black and white thinking, like where this nuance gets lost, that it's not you don't have to do either or, but there's this nuance in how you can approach it.
Yes. Indeed. Indeed.
And yeah, and that's like true with these ancient cultures as well. They understood this nuance. They weren't super rigid with it either. but they were very strict about the sacred groves though, and these like sacred areas that they had under these different deities, like Artemis in Greece, for instance, or Gaia, or like a Danu, or other such
and in
figures.
the Finnish, Mielikki.
Yeah.
As protector of the forests and the wild animals.
Yeah.
It's interesting how that goes very far back. Like they had these sanctuaries for the bears.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it seems to be very much a widespread thing. I think I've seen one on channel on YouTube a long time ago talk about that these bear rituals and these bear connected areas go back like a long time. I think that even the Neanderthals were having like a similar practice, even, and that that it's very it's very indigenous to for instance Europe itself at large, and it can be even be seen as probably partly proto-Indo-European. So like the people that were there before the proto-Indo-European people came into Europe. So it's like it's very ancient stuff, like very very ancient. It goes very much into the very ancient past. But what you also said regarding, like their observation, I just want to bring up that you could see that with Göbekli Tepe, for instance, but also different sites, that it took them a while to also in different areas to understand nature and to understand that balance and to find a better balance. And you could see this evolving too in like their relationship to these different deities as well, and like how they evolved and how they started to slowly understand them better and to understand it more, where in certain areas they would overhunt or do certain things and they didn't realize what they did, but then later they learned, and then they were like, okay, well, I guess the spirits don't really like me doing this stuff, so I have very bad outcomes when that happens, like and then maybe we shouldn't do that. But yeah, it is very much about observation. It's similarly like with the Egyptians, or like all these different cultures. They observed. They very much they use observation as this tool in a way to understand nature, and then also figure out that relationship. Like how can I have this best relationship with nature, and how can I interact with nature in a way that is like mutually beneficial, like so we can keep going on as a whole.
Indeed, it's like, yeah, very much about like being present and really seeing like through all the seasons how the plants interact in a way, like, or like some plants come earlier in the year and the other ones later, and how that all plays together. And it's very much like, and every place is unique and different, and we can learn like in a different location again, like so many different things, even just like not too far away. Like there's many different ecosystems on a local range, like close by even. And
Yeah.
we can keep learning all our life and still not know everything. So it's like very, very much like abundant stuff to be learning about. And
Oh, for
very
sure.
interesting and beautiful and very much worth protecting. So
Yeah,
yeah,
very much so.
yeah. Wonder if we went into most of the practical stuff I meant to say about.
Um, yeah, I would
Probably.
probably.
Yeah. Of
Hmm.
course, like can learn about composting and
Yeah.
making cuttings. Some plants you can reproduce like that, or like transplanting some wild plants or stuff like that to moving them to a different location. Or yeah, there's different ways to be like um, helpful in that sense, like
Yeah.
to
Yeah. I just
depending on.
yeah. I,
Mm.
I, I just kind of like something that came to mind too, and that's kind of what the ancient cultures also did a lot, is that they learned about all of these different plants too, like the medicinal properties of them, like
Oh
you know,
yeah.
with different trees, like with like birch or willow or um, yeah,
Oh yeah. A lot of them have medicinal properties as well. Oak too, and if you look into it, it seems like all of them have some kind of use. So yeah, it's very, very fascinating.
yeah,
And not just trees, different kinds of plants as well. A lot of the
oh yeah,
wild plants, not just the ones that we've cultivated, even though those are also nice, but it's like, yeah, even some of the so-called weeds are very medicinal and helpful for specific things. And then it's like, learn from the ones who found out already, I guess. Or, yeah.
yeah, and I kind of feel that's an important part of it as well, to
Oh, yeah.
understand that like yeah, there's much uh to it all, more than just that. And yeah, and I guess in a way, in a more like psychological way, you know, nature also very helps to regulate you know, like the our mental well-being as well. So there's that too.
Indeed.
Yeah.
There's a lot of studies about that, and I think it was the Japanese, they even prescribe it for some people, like the doctors there. It's like, you should
Mm-hmm.
go spend time in nature to reduce your stress levels.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I don't know if I would manage at all without walks in the woods most days in my life.
Mm.
Yeah, makes me a lot calmer. Well, you all know, like, there's a lot going on in the world. But then,
Yeah.
like, if you look at your immediate environment or you're close by a park or forest, and if you connect with that, you can notice, like, oh, but I'm okay in this moment, and I'm not threatened. I can just breathe here with these trees and with this. Oh, there's a squirrel, and some birds are flying above, and they're chirping, and the wind is rustling in the trees. And this is a nice moment.
Mm. Yeah. But yeah, that's very much true. It's it's too easy to get like lost in all kinds of things, to be disconnected um from nature. But I mean, disconnected from nature, and you know, like from a Jungian lens, like bringing it back is maybe also like it helps us to connect to our own body as well. So that's also part of it. But like, yeah, that's some little side notes on the psychological side of it.
I had also written down here like the
Yeah.
environment is like our collective body.
Huh. In a way, yes. I mean, it kind of brings to mind that what you said at one time about like the hierarchy of needs, this pyramid, and then you put like the ecosystem underneath it, which is true. It's like we just doesn't we just don't really tend to realize, but like, yeah, but it's very much true. Very much is like we're very much connected to it in a way. Like it reminds me of Sadhguru saying about like how the trees are the other side, or like the kind of a like, yeah, like our outside lungs basically,
Mm.
which is true. It's like can't do without like that, or algae, or a lot of these other species that are there.
Mm.
And it's easy to forget these things.
Yeah, they created the atmosphere that where we can live,
Yeah.
and they upkeep it too. Especially like with all the extra pollution that we're making right now, it's like
Yeah.
we really should be very grateful for every living thing that can photosynthesize and bind carbon.
Mm.
And that can create oxygen for us, or like, yeah, as a byproduct, really release oxygen for us.
Yeah, and then yeah, I don't know, and yeah.
Yeah, like nature is like a community, you know, and we're
Mm.
part of that community. We just forgot that we are. And it's
Yeah.
like if we can rebuild that relationship to it, then I think that's how we can shift that um, way of relating to how we treat the plants and the land, how we do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of something that I've come to realize, because I like some quite some years ago when I started like environmental science. It's like there's a lot of like sciencey ways how people think about it, but then the whole I guess relating part gets often like lost in the whole like scientific kind of thinking regarding it, or it can be. There's different like fields that are more like, I guess, relational in that sense regarding nature, but like it's I feel like very much um, part of it, and I kind of feel regarding that also that like more like animistic kind of lens regarding nature is kind of like very much necessary for that shift to happen, because it's very difficult to like to change one's behavior if you're still thinking in that way of like that kind of death matter thinking, if you're still in that kind of mindset where
Mm.
it's still like seen as the other, and this thing I can cut down, or I can do this or that with, and I can just do whatever I want with it, which is not the case because you can't. But it's
Mm.
like, but yeah, it's important to have to have that shift, and I feel like
I think it's happening in a way,
yeah,
or like it's trying to happen, like with science and spirituality in a way, trying
yeah.
to find some like common ground. And I've seen some developments to that direction. I'm hopeful about it.
No, same, and I've seen like there's like a natural shift going on. right now with people like more and more starting to lean more towards like an animistic kind of lens themselves. But I feel like it's a natural reaction kind of too regarding like the world as it is, with like all this stuff that's going on the internet and news and all that, everything what's going on. That's so like, I don't know, I guess disconnected from the cycles of nature and like the more like slower rhythms of nature versus all that very fast paced stuff in the world a lot. And yeah, and I kind of feel that's also a very important part too when it comes to it as well, regarding the rituals that these ancient people did, like for instance the Celts, to pick an example. Like is that connection to the cycles of the year as well.
So very much so.
And to very much live in that, like because they were living in connection to that, to nature and these cycles, and also oriented their like life accordingly around it, to have the harvest festival, for instance, or all these different things that they would be doing. I feel like generally it's a shift in perspective, in that sense.
And like there's wisdom to slowing down when it's darker and doing more things like just handcrafts or something at home, or because it was the practical thing to do. And then when the spring comes, then starts the work and the planting and yeah. And with the harvest, was a lot of like how to conserve in different ways the food and all that kind of wisdom as well, because they didn't have the refrigerators that we do.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were very very versed in like we were saying, with the observation of nature and the seasons, and living accordingly, because that was really like kind of going with what works when, and whatever was abundant at a certain time, then that's when it makes sense to harvest that and use it and preserve if you need it for later as well.
Yeah.
They knew about like the local different plants.
Oh yeah, very much so. Yeah, so we're back from a little break. First, is there anything like regarding the practical or other things still that you wanna touch upon, or do you feel like we can slowly head into the more like side regarding the mythology, the different traditions, and
I guess I could like do a tiny bit of a wrap up, like a few things about it. It's like observe the local nature, learn from it, learn about the different plants that you see, identify them, learn what they've been used for in the past, and see if you can save some seeds and start some plants, some trees, some local leafy trees that you like, or that you think like they're not enough of them around, so maybe you can start a little nursery like that. Or if you have land, find ways where you can have some of it like a bit more wild. You don't have to control everything, and that already helps a bit. Like, and everyone can help a bit. And if you don't have your own land, talk to someone who has land
Mm.
and
Yeah.
teach them about these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I guess that's like some things that came to mind still to say again.
Yeah.
Important.
Yeah. And regarding, like that with the sanctuary kind of garden, and like, would you have any like tips of like where to look at, or like regarding like, yeah, people who want to create something like that in their own garden, or because it doesn't have to be massive. It can start small. Like, do you have any like
Oh yeah, it can be just like a little yard, like where your house is, the backyard, or some people have a bit bigger yards. Or I guess, I mean, I have the idea like that it could be like started also like on land that's been like clear
mm-hmm.
cut. You could work together with the natural succession to like create a very diverse type of sanctuary for insects and for the
Yeah.
wildlife, but at the same time have beneficial plants that are growing like that we humans can get yields from in due time as well, like fruit or berries or things like this. So it could be something like that, or even like land that's been used
Uh-huh.
for agriculture, like field before. There's a lot of those fields, and they, with what we know now, we can't keep doing that for decades and decades longer. We need to find different ways to
Yeah.
grow different kinds of food. So this is one thing to think about. Like maybe it can be a food forest type of thing, like that permaculture talks about, and
Mm.
that's also kind of like an ecosystem. And it can be like then like something in between, like a food forest and a sanctuary forest garden. There's so much room for um, uniqueness, and
Yeah.
the locations are always unique, and no garden is the same, no location is the same. So
Yeah,
I
that's
guess
true.
just start, and you learn more with doing than just planning.
Um
I've
yeah.
found. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. That's yeah. And I would also say, for people listening, if they're interested, you can check out like Lynn's channel, Mossdala too. I'm gonna put a link in the description of the video, and also some talks we did on permaculture, and like kind of the food forest idea that we had done before, and also about soil. That's kind of also relevant in its own way. Yeah, I'll link those below as well. And yeah, kind of with that said, I think for me that kind of wraps up the more practical aspects of it all. And if it's okay with you, maybe we can go a little bit more into the mythological and, like, I guess spiritual aspects of sacred groves more. And and I guess the trees too, because it doesn't just have to be groves, because it can also just be within a forest as well. This connection to trees, but that aside,
Mhm.
I don't know if there's anything specific you would like to start with, because I mean I can pick anything from like Celtic to Arkteia, or I know you have prepared something regarding the Finnish.
Mm. Well, not. I haven't really prepared anything, but I've heard some things about the Finnish tradition. regarding like
Mm-hmm.
what I guess could be translated to sacred groves, like the pyhät lehdot, which is like sacred groves of leafy trees. Really, what it would more
Yeah.
specifically be. So there used to be this tradition of having close by to where the houses were kept, where the home was, there would be an area of diverse leafy trees, and it was like connected to the ancestors, and you would go there to connect with the ancestors, and sometimes like leave offerings of food or something there for them, um or just be there to like connect with them and maybe ask for guidance. Things like this is what I've read about it.
Hmm.
Yeah, and there used to be this reverence for the different leafy trees that is like sadly not there much anymore. What's more like, well, the birch is still pretty much like respected, or like I guess it's because of the sauna tradition of
Yeah.
using it for that. But it's like, um, yeah, there's like a lot of other trees too that were considered sacred, and like the rowan and willow too, I think. And
Yeah.
it's like a lot of the times people don't really respect these trees anymore. Really wanting to bring that back. It's like they're very good for habitat, and willows are very important for the bees in the early spring
Yeah.
too. So there's like a lot of things like play into the big symphony, like I said, that we don't always think about. But it's like all the plants have their own function, their own role in the whole, in the nature of the local life.
Yeah.
And
No, very much so.
mm,
Very much so. Has its function, and it kind of reminds me also about the Celtic tradition as well, with like the birch and the willow and the oak, especially the oak. Even like the name Druid is connected to oak, and it kind of reminds me of like Quirinus too. This like Roman deity. His name is connected to oak as well. Even his like I think it was his priests, or like the and like the people underneath him were also like connected to the oak. There's a lot of like connection to that. Well, and thunder gods, but that goes way too much into Trito and like Proto-Indo-European stuff. But that aside, but there's very many of these different trees with different functions and also different connections um, to these nature spirits as well. Like for instance, with the Greek with the Dryads, for instance, originally they were just only connected to oaks, but then over time they were starting to be connected to all kinds of different trees. So there were different dryads and nymphs connected to all these different types of trees. But then also there's this connection to the ancestors that you already mentioned as well, that they had as well. And they would like have these stone or like wooden altars that they would also have in the sacred groves, or in a particular place within the forest or close to their home, that's closer to nature, where they would leave their offerings, their jewels or food or seeds or other items, which also brings to mind like the Feronia rituals, for instance, as well, where they would do that with like the seeds and bringing them to celebrate nature and the harvest. But then also at the same time, there's like with the Arkteia and this like bear dance ritual, the trees were also important there. because they also had like Artemis of that was that's connected to the trees, and like the trees were sacred to her as much as that it's sacred to me, Liki, too. And with Artemis, for instance, it was also again connected to the nymphs, and the nymphs were then connected to her priestesses in a symbolic manner too, and they would upkeep these groves, and they would protect them, and they would upkeep the temple and in the space, the altar, and they would guide the young people towards this like connection with nature as well. So they had this like guiding role as well with it. They would be teaching people in the grove about nature, about like how it works, what's the rules, like what's the natural law here, what's like what's the proper way how to relate to these spirits and of nature, and how to relate to nature itself.
Yeah, it's beautiful that they had like that kind of like a lineage in the culture
Yeah.
of passing that on. And
Yeah.
I guess like in the very old days, everyone took part in these rituals.
In the very old days, yes, but over time, like the old days being more like the hunter-gatherer, like Neolithic, like how more closer it gets to that, how more it's everyone does it. But later on, if you go more towards the Bronze Age, and you go more towards like more farming-centered kind of cultures, like it's starting to become more centered on farming, and later on cities. But that aside, but like it's starting to it's really starting to shift, and it starts to be more like the elite of society do these rituals, but not everyone anymore. But it really used to be just everyone did these rituals because they were very, very important, and also made them part of the tribe. Because literally they had to go through it. If you wouldn't go through it, you couldn't be part of certain special things in the tribe. You wouldn't be ready to marry. You wouldn't be ready to do certain tasks that were, kind of like considered like that you would be mature now. You have this, you understand the relationship to nature. You understand the relationship with yourself and your body, and you've integrated that instinctual side, and you.
Yeah. That ties kind of back to what we said in the beginning about like that there is this life force and it can be used for harmful things, or the same force, the same power, you can use it to protect. And I think that's kind of what they were learning too. It's like, for one thing, learning that they have this power, really connecting to their instinct through the dances and through the different things that they did. And then like to be kind of initiated into like, but hey, you can't use this for just anything. I mean, you want to be part of the collective. You want to, we want to work together and, have a good life together. So I guess that's like what they were getting at with all that.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me. It's like kind of like not like as much related to, like, to some degree, yes, also like the chorus rituals. In some of the cultures, they had these dances that they did in the groves as well, and this connection to it, but not always. Sometimes it's just in the wilderness and spending time there. But it's the same ideas behind it, about knowing, like, about learning about life, about that life force, and how to utilize it, like how to utilize it in a proper way, and integrate that over time. So you can then, when you return and reintegrate back into that community, larger community, really, in that sense, not just the human community, but I guess the overall community, then you very much understand that connection. Kind of reminds me too about like in ancient Greece. At some point, they all took part of like these Eleusinian mysteries. It's like it's kind of different, but it's the same idea, and it's you can see that too with the rituals of Artemis too. Like they would be like a yearly thing that they would do. Like every year, people would like there would be the kids would go through it, and then there would be these women who had gone through it already, who would be the priestesses who would take on that role, and then. And also the thing is, those priestesses wouldn't just always stay these priestesses, because at some point they might just be like, okay, well, I fulfilled my duty as priestess, and I go do another thing. Some would just become priestesses of other goddesses or something, or other deities or nature spirits. Like instead of Artemis, like I don't know, like Aphrodite or like Athena, or, like if you think about like the Greek pantheon, but but then also like just doing other things too.
Some of them married.
Yeah, some of them married, but it wasn't. It was very much like an integral part of. It used to be an integral part of their culture, and not. And similarly with a lot of other like cultures as well, it used to be a very integrate part of it. Like there were these people that were kind of these, in a way, wisdom keepers, that were these people that connected people back to nature and to themselves, also for healing, but and many other like, I guess you could call it in a modern sense psychological, but also I guess spiritual purposes. And I kind of feel like that's also a very important part of it too. Like the Celts had the Druids, the Greeks had these priestesses, and the Romans had these priests and priestesses, and like, and it's also very much an important part of the groves too. It's like these wisdom keepers that know about nature, know about this connection, who can guide people and like teach them about. Like about this connection with nature, about how to see these things, to be educated kind of in it, and to build up that connection in one's own way.
Yes. Yes, I mean, a lot of the time, like in the past, the wisdom was passed on by like the spoken tradition. Maybe nothing was written down even, but that's like how they did it in the past a lot. Like before written language, that's how knowledge was passed on, was through these myths and these stories, and that's like also why mythology has like a deep meanings. Like even if it isn't literal, it has like a lot to say.
Yeah, but
and it's a very deep like old way to relay things. And I guess the only thing is like that you have to think of it like in a symbolic manner instead of a literal one, and you can learn a lot from it and from these old stories and these ways of relating to nature.
Yeah, it's similar with like a lot of these stories about like the different nymphs, or all these different nature deities like Cernunnos, or like with the Celts, or like these different water goddesses, or these different like forest deities, and the particular rituals and the particular things connected to them. It's like, and the myths connected to them as well. They were teaching people about that relationship with nature, about like in a symbolic manner.
Yes, that reminds me, I also have some cards here about some nature spirits that I could show. Like Cernunnos reminds me of like this card. It's Tapio, and it's like it's the Finnish forest dude.
Dude.
I can't think of the word. Like the the Lord of the Forests, say.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a similar character, I guess.
A bit.
There's something similar to it. And then here's Mielikki. It's like similar to Artemis.
Yeah, and she's like connected to, I think, to animals, and I think can even shapeshift into different animals.
Yeah.
So
Very cool.
yeah, like the
And she
bear.
protects them as well.
Yeah, I think the bear is connected to her, and maybe the deer too.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also this one thing I just want to quickly bring up is just that a lot of people might not realize this, but these different like nature spirits, especially connected to the forest, they're very, very ancient. Like these traditions, like they go back very far, like Neolithic, Stone Age, and further back. So it's very ancient stuff.
Yeah. You also said about like water spirits or goddesses. There's also such in Finnish tradition. There's the spirit of the rapid waters, for example, but there's many different ones. And also like different bog spirits that are linked often to ancestors as well.
Yeah, kind of reminds me of the water goddesses. Like there's these goddesses of like different swamps and also lakes and such areas and pools of water that are like connected to the spirit world for these cultures and these traditions, and also then the ancestors, and they would like leave their treasures there, or like they would like the Celts would do that, for instance. They would like make their offerings there or leave their treasures there, or make offerings there. Similarly with like Artemis too, the pools of water and the swamps were sacred, and they would have like these sacred bogs as well.
And it makes sense because like water is so important for all life. Would make sense to respect it, to wanna keep it sacred and pure.
Yeah, and maybe I don't know. This one thing I also want to bring up just is that this connection to nature and to it's like because people back then also like they were taught about all of these different deities and all these different things and rituals and all that, but a lot of people also had a very personal connection to particular nature spirits or particular trees or particular deities that they were very much connected to, because it's and I kind of feel like it's a very important aspect too regarding that. It's not like it wasn't a prescribed thing of like this is like everyone in the tribe needs to, I don't know, worship Cernunnos or something, or like Artemis or whatever. It's like no, there were many. There's Pan, and then there's like Artemis and Gaia, and there's like Ceres and Demeter and.
So you're saying it wasn't imposed in a specific way. It was more like whatever you resonated with, you could connect more with that.
Yeah, and it's like different aspects of nature that more connect to you, and particular, I guess, spirits and energies that people would like work with specifically. So it wouldn't be like like certain things like everyone had to go through these particular rituals, but then next to that there was a lot of like emphasis too though on like cultivating like the a more personal connection to nature, a particular spirit of a tree, or like particular plants or particular animals, or the different like nature deities that they would be more connected to and would be more prone to honor or be part of their own personal practice, or like family tradition even, or like connected to their ancestors in some way. That's very personal too. I kind of feel like kind of felt bringing that up because you also have that card about Pekko, and I know like you have that like special personal connection to. Yeah.
I often see the white rabbits, the mountain rabbits they're called in English, but they're forest rabbits here. So they become white in the winter time. But yeah, the Pekko spirit is the spirit of the fields, and he can take this form of the white rabbit. But he represents like the living landscape and the abundance and the harvest, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep seeing the rabbits a lot when I have a walk sometimes late at night. And I guess like that's it's one of my spirit guides in a way.
Yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, it's in that way really important to to build that personal connection to it. I feel regarding like the sacred groves too, like a meditation or like contemplation or like other like rituals that people would do were also connected to it, and a lot of these were very personal, and it's a very personal like connection that you build towards nature in your own manner. And it's not really like it's like so in that way there was really also a very like diversity of like practices and kind of like ways of like connecting to nature. It's like the same similar theme. It's the same theme and the same kind of idea behind it, but then just different ways of how people would go about it, like through this deity or this spirit, or through in like certain emphases that they would have because of, well, I live close to water, or I live close to the forest, or I do these things, so it makes more sense to be working with this particular deity or this particular spirit, or like this kind of, I guess, like habitat, because a lot of them also are land spirits or spirits of place too, so they're very connected to a particular habitat or area.
Yeah, probably like a specific rivers too, or specific mountains. I know like that Tara goddess, the green Tara, in Buddhism is connected to a mountain with very abundant nature.
Yeah, that reminds me of Sibel, who was originally connected to like particular mountains too, especially Mount Ida, for instance. So it's very much true, and it's also true with the Mongolian like shamanic tradition too. For instance, there's like these different like spirits that are very connected to a particular mountain or a particular area like that, or a lake, for instance too. From saw like recently a post from one shaman. She had posted about a lake in China, about the spirit of the lake and like the spirits that are there, and it's very like it's very local and very connected to particular places and particular, I guess, type of ecosystem as well. And it's not the same because it's one thing that someone it's been years ago, I don't even remember who it was, but that someone had said to me that it's not about like worshipping like some a particular, I don't know, spirit or like deity or whatever, or like building that connection to that, because it's really more about kind of really like in the actual ancient sense of building a relationship with a particular deity, or like, you know, to work with that energy. That's really how they did it. But it's like, it's not just about like you just pick anyone and be like, oh yeah, I just want to work with this one because I don't know, I like something. But it's also very in a practical sense of like, well, I live close to the forest and I'm doing a lot of things in the forest. Like, for instance, one person would be a hunter in the past. They would be working with, for instance, Mieliki. Why? Because she's connected to the animals. It's very practical in that sense.
Yeah, they
And
would ask for a favor,
yeah,
like because it's really she that decides, you know, if you have luck or not in your hunt.
yeah,
So you
and
want to have a good relationship with her.
exactly. Exactly, and you know that's also one thing I wanted to bring up, that it wasn't like it's not disconnected from the environment and from the local place. It's very connected to it deeply, and it's very like tied to the place where you are, and you work with these particular like deities and spirits that are there in this place. You need to then also respect them and respect that particular environment and that relationship that's there, that then is required of one, because the relationship is not the same, because you can't, the way like how you relate to nature and like, I don't know, I guess let's say now some tropical place, like I don't know, some African country or some country in Asia, or and I don't know, I guess Finland for instance, would be completely different because nature is different.
Yeah, I think like here because we have bears and because we can see
Yeah,
the constellation of the big bear a lot of the time. That's something like that has um, been a big part of the folklore. It's like
yeah,
it's our star brother, the brother from the stars. You know, was very much revered and still is in a way respected.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The Big Dipper, or like, yeah, the Greater Bear is very in a lot of different cultures very important in different ways,
Mm.
because Odin
But
is
you know,
connected to it, and Gaia and all these.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, but you know, I guess it wouldn't be visible from places like Australia, maybe. It's more like the northern
No.
hemisphere
Yeah.
where it's very important because it's very visible here. So that mythology is more the northern hemisphere.
Yeah, very much so. Yes. But it's very important for many of them in their own way. Like there's like different for the Greeks, I think it was like Gaia, and like the Great Mother was more connected to it. But then with like the Norse, there's more Odin and Freya connected to it, and then and different
Mm.
dwarfs and Thor, I think too. But generally, from what I've
Mm.
seen, is that the Great Bear and the bear itself is like connected to guidance, and also like with the bear in animistic cultures a lot, the bear is like the king of the spirits, so it has like a
Mm.
very important place in a lot of these different cultures.
Oh yeah, I bet. Like regarding the Norse, in Swedish at least, the Big Dipper is called Karlavagnen, which
Mm.
means like the chariot of the free man, or I guess of Thor or Odin. Then his wagon,
Yeah.
or what he rides through the sky with, and creates the thunder.
Mm.
So that's a bit of a different story regarding that constellation, but
Yeah,
still.
but yeah, still there's like different connections regarding that. I know with Thor, for instance, that the oak tree is also connected to it and sacred.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a connection generally between oak trees and thunder, like Uranus, for instance, or I think even Mars, and different like thunder deities. Generally in Europe, they're all connected to oak trees.
Hmm.
It's a general theme. I think it has to do with the tendency of like oak trees to attract lightning.
Mm.
So they've connected both of them.
Mm. Makes sense.
Yeah, but yeah, regarding yeah these ancient traditions and these like yeah different, I guess, also spiritual functions that it had. Like, is there anything specific still, like, that you wanna touch upon, that you feel like is yeah important to do so?
I think
Yeah.
touched on the main things. I mean, there's always more to say about it.
there is.
There's always more to say about it, but I
Yeah.
think that was like the main stuff.
Yeah, I do
I
feel
think
like that. Yeah.
if you still want to share, I'm gonna stay and listen for sure.
Well, kind of like what I feel, what it would go more into would be more like, the rituals, like what the Celts were doing and the Greeks and that. But that I kind of feel like that's more like set away for the one specifically about the rituals that we
Mm,
can like go into another time.
yeah,
Kind of feel like
that's gonna be interesting talk too.
oh yeah, for sure, for sure. But yeah,
Yeah.
maybe just a bit about like what was also important, and I feel is very very important, is that about the wisdom keepers regarding nature and these traditions, because they would be the keepers of the mythology, and also this relationship with nature, and also connected to yeah the divine as well, and like teach people about that, and to connect to nature and the divine in through yeah these through this connection with nature, and through it, like, in a way, from a Jungian lens to oneself as well. And I kind of feel like to still highlight like the importance
Mm,
of that as well, to
mm.
respect those wisdom keepers. And I guess also, I guess, in different cultures, I guess the indigenous people that are there, that are wisdom keepers, because it depends on where one is at.
Oh yeah, and it really is also about like connecting ourselves to our own inner wisdom.
Mm,
And like, yes, of course, like we need to learn from the people who know about these things, but also like I feel like if we truly connect with ourselves and with our environment, that we can
yeah,
tap into this like ancestral wisdom, even like without talking to people. We can learn these things from the environment. It's like kind of
true.
in the field, or the not just the field that's like the land, but also the field of like the cosmic field, but
Mm,
also like in the matter, and where they meet, that's where life happens, and that's where we are. If we can connect more with that, maybe we all can become wisdom keepers, and it would be great if
mm.
there would be more keepers of wisdom. Keep that in our heart.
Yeah. But yeah, you're correct. Like in the end, like like reading about these things or being told about them is one thing, but like the experience of it is also very important, and I feel like that's the ritual kind of part of it too, when like this continual keeping up of this relationship with nature, with through these different practices of like connecting to different different like guardian spirits, because a lot of the groves also had guardian spirits connected to them, different like a particular land spirit, or a particular like deity or other type of spirit. Could be like the spirit of a bear, an elk, or a wolf, or a rabbit, or it depends on the particular place, or like with different kind of water spirit. I know in Asia they're very big about the nagas, for instance. This like snake like spirit, a snake woman spirit, for instance, that's connected to the waters. But there's in different cultures different ones, and I feel like it's also important to look at that, like where you're at, and like what's kind of the spirits and the because the deities and energies that are there, and like how can I build that relationship towards those particular spirits, and like also see like what's personally meaningful for me, and what's what is my own way of how to connect to that, and to connect to like you said, that inner sense of wisdom as well.
Yeah, because it's like a very much a personal experience of life and of the divine. Then it's
Yeah,
like no one can tell you exactly how to do it. You have to experience it yourself. That's really how it is.
very much so.
And yeah, of course, the wisdom keepers are very important, and the people who can mentor you into doing that yourself. But
Yeah,
eventually it's like something you have to do within your own self, in your own experience of nature and of life.
yeah, very much so, very much so. I mean, yeah, one could go to the wisdom keepers for advice, but at some point you need to be able to to cultivate that practice yourself, and to really to keep that up yourself, this connection to the spirits of nature, but also I guess in a way it extended also to much more than that in an animistic sense, but that aside, like household spirits and so on. But yeah, it's very much personal, and it's important to keep that up in a very personal way. And I think with that said, I don't know if you have anything still. Otherwise, maybe we can wrap up the episode for now.
Mm. Thank everyone. Thank you, Abbas, for being here
Yeah,
for this talk, and thank you for the whole community and the Foxden, and thank you for
thank
everyone who
you.
listened and who's been listening, and
Yeah,
thank you for your support. And remember that small change leads to bigger change. Start where you can, and let's keep going.
yeah,
Yeah.
indeed. Let's keep
Thank you.
going. Okay, thank you, and yes, indeed. Thank you, everyone, and thank you too for being on, and like to speak about to bring up your own like experience with it, and your own insights regarding this. And if anyone has anything more to say about it, or like was interested to join regarding like the rituals, or like know something about that, or has any questions, you can leave it in either the comments, or you can join the Fox Den, or join the next talk, or even request a particular talk yourself. But, just keep in mind that it's a conversation much like this, not a debate of sorts. We're here trying to let people speak from their particular perspective without doing anything else, and let people decide themselves to see like what they think of this person's perspective. I just wanted to bring that up for those new to the channel. And with that said, I would like to end this episode, and thank you all for listening, and you for being here, Lynn.